and welcome into Citadel Grayson line. Graeson Underwood leads the Citadel to a big win at Western Carolina. I'm John Rawl. Actually, this show is called Citadel Gray Live, but maybe we should rename it for 1 week in honor of Mr. Underwood. I am joined by Andrew Miller of the Charleston Post and Courier and also by Thomas Scruggs. We're going to look back at that huge, dominating win over the Catamounts last weekend and ahead for the first of 3 games at Johnson-Haygood Stadium that the Bulldogs will be having. And up first, the Samford Bulldogs, a very good football team. We'll break it all right down right here on the Gray Line, and we welcome your calls and feedback at 843-779-8496. Would love to hear from all y'all right here on this week's show. Let's go now to our Post and Courier insider, and he wasn't there last week at the ball game. And so, Andrew, we're just going to kind of keep you away from all the Citadel sporting contests going forward.
Yeah, it was funny because
we'll come back to Andrew in a second. We're having some audio problems. Let's go to Thomas Scruggs. Thomas, there you are. And how about them Bulldogs? There they were.
How about those Bulldogs, John? That's the Citadel football we've been looking for a while. It sounds like Andrew may have fixed his issues there.
Yeah, we'll come back to him. But first, Thomas, it was a big win and the arrival of a guy that's been on the roster but has not had a single snap in any kind of football game in years. And I'm talking going back to Dutch Fork High School.
Yes, sir. It was great to see a Lexington County native take the reins of the offense and get it pointed back in the right direction, John.
He did that, as we mentioned. Now, let's see if we can't get Andrew back in the reins. Hello there.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Let's try take 2 with Monsieur Miller.
Oh, I was, my daughter got married on Saturday, but there was kind of a point after we took pictures and before I had to walk her down the aisle where there wasn't a whole lot that the father of the bride could do. And I started watching the game on my phone.
Ooh.
And when it became 7-0, 14-0, 17-0, 24-0, in the second quarter, I remember thinking, boy, Brett Thompson is never going to allow me back into the press room. So a great win. You're right. Graeson Underwood had a absolutely phenomenal football game. And now for people who think, and I've seen a couple of message boards, well, hey, where's this guy been? How come we haven't been starting him the whole year? I can tell you the first 2 scrimmages that I saw this season during the preseason, Graeson Underwood was a non-factor. He did not play particularly well. I know that really can't judge anybody when they're playing with the second and third team guys, but trust me when I say this, Peyton Derrick and Ahmad Green were both better than he was. So to say that this performance came out of nowhere, I didn't anticipate this. I don't think anybody saw this kind of performance, but I tell you what, he's exactly what the Citadel needed to right this ship.
He did right the ship. In fact, we're going to right the ship on this week's Gray Line right off the bat. We're going to start in a celebratory way. First off, our show is presented by IPS Packaging and Automation and by BigRedPalmetto.store. And we're going to start off this week's show with our Knob Knowledge question because we've got stuff to give away. We have a winner from last week's show that we've got to feat here on our program. Our Knob Knowledge question asked last week was, could you please tell us the nickname of Brent Thompson's alma mater, Norwich University, where he played football? What is their athletic nickname? And we had some guesses coming in, and very good guesses. One was the correct nickname for their equivalent of knobs. Do you know what they're called there in Norwich, Vermont, Mr. Scruggs, what the knobs are actually called there?
As a matter of fact, I do, John. I believe they're called rooks.
You are correct. But that was not the knob knowledge question I was asking last week. I was wanting to know the name of their athletic teams in honor of former Norwich football player Brent Thompson and a father of a current, speaking of rooks, in this case Knob. The father of a current Knob football player was our correct answer last week, and so we've got a $25 gift certificate headed to Knob Dad. And the correct answer, in honor of the Citadel, is the Norwich Cadets, which is also an alternative nickname for the Citadel. We're the Bulldogs and the Cadets. And that is what Norwich goes by, the Cadets. And Andrew, last week you kind of like, I knew this answer because there was a South Carolina Stingray that was once up there. Did I get it right? Is it Cadets?
Cadets, you are correct. The South Carolina Stingray in question was Nikita Kashirski.
Oh.
Yeah,
Right.
he came from Norwich, played there. They had a great hockey program up there.
All right, we'll sign you up, Andrew, for the South Carolina Stingray gray line or red line or whatever their colors are. So let's move on to this week's Knob Knowledge question. Let's go ahead and get it out of the gate. If you watched this last weekend's game of Citadel football, the arrival of one Graeson Underwood on the road at Western Carolina, a guy that kind of came out of nowhere and led his team to a huge victory, was eerily familiar to those who watch Citadel football. Could you please tell me the most recent Citadel unknown who came out of nowhere to lead his team to victory in Cullowhee and then ended up being a pretty darn good quarterback for the Bulldogs? Tell me who that quarterback is, and we'll send you a $25 gift certificate courtesy of BigRedPalmetto.store. Just text your correct answer to 843-779-8496, 843-779-8496, and we'll get you that $25 gift certificate. Again, very, very happy to hear from the parent of a football player who was the correct answer on last week's show by correctly guessing Cadets, and we'll get somebody out there a very good gift certificate for letting us know who was that last Citadel player who went up to Cullowhee and came away a star, as Graeson Underwood has done. And now that I've kind of given away the question, Andrew, make sure you don't bring back that kind of past Citadel football history when we're sitting here dissecting this game, because it was eerily familiar if you've been watching Citadel football the last few years. Okay, now that we've said that, how about those Bulldogs?
Yeah, that was the perfect formula for winning football at the Citadel. I mean, if you think about kind of the keys to the game that I mentioned last week, that was ball possession, that was finishing off drives with touchdowns instead of field goals, that was defending the pass and making tackles in open space. They did all of those things. I mean, the fact that the Citadel controlled the ball for as long as they did, had those long drives that ended up in touchdowns. They kept the ball away from that very explosive Catamounts defense. I thought the defense, besides stopping the run, but maybe that was part of the game plan, was that they were going to give up those runs between the tackles and really concentrate on those deep balls. They were able to turn the Catamounts over a couple of times, even though one was at the end of the first half. They did everything right. That was the absolute perfect formula for winning football at the Citadel. And if they do that against Samford this week, they will win again. They just got to control the ball, score touchdowns, and then keep that the opposing team's offense off the field for as long as possible. And it was just a perfect win there for the Citadel, and a much needed win. And you saw the difference in Coach Thompson this week. I talked to him last night.
We're going to have to get the Post and Courier to spend another penny and get him a little bit better internet service.
Yeah.
He was cutting out on your end, right, Thomas?
Yes, he was.
Okay, all right. We're picking on your internet service there, Andrew. Since that storm came through a couple of weeks ago, yours hasn't quite. It just cuts out for some reason. Sorry.
Yeah, my apologies.
It's all right. It's not on you. It's on whoever's whoever your dial-up service is with there.
And if I go downstairs, my dogs and cats will be all over my.
I understand.
All over the.
We're just glad to. Hey, we're glad to have you. We'll take you however we can get you. If you need to carrier pigeon your responses back to us, we'll be happy to take them right here on the Gray Line. Andrew, you did mention Coach Thompson at his weekly press conference this week. Why don't we go into the bowels of Johnson-Hagan Stadium and hear from the coach as he talked about the arrival of number 18, Graeson Underwood, to the program, and what a huge difference that indeed made for the Citadel, victorious over Western Carolina this past weekend. Here's Coach Thompson.
Yeah, it's Grayson. Unfortunately, he was our backup at one time in the spring of 2021, and was going to be the next guy to Jalen, and took another injury. He had 2 consecutive injuries, and we didn't really know. He had rehabbed it really well last year, so it's been over a year. So he hasn't taken a live contact hit in close to about 2.5 years, I guess. So we weren't really sure where he was at. But then you also figure he's kind of settled into his role. I thought he learned the offense a lot better over the last 3 weeks. But he came to see me 2 weeks ago, and he wanted to contribute. I said, are you ready to go? I said, I know you've had these 2 injuries. Are you ready to be able to stress that and take some live shots? He said, I'm in the best shape that I've ever been in. I'm ready to go. I said, well, here's the 2 things that you need to do. I'll give you reps with the ones, and this was going before the Wofford week. I'll give you reps with the ones, but you need to show me that you can do X, Y, and Z. And if you can do those things, then, we'll at least consider the thought. And to his credit, he went out there, and I think he settled in. He got certain things under control that he needed to get under control in his game, and really did a pretty good job of just listening and executing and doing what we're asked him to do. So a little bit it was just a little comfortability level with a guy that's played in this league for a while. Ahmad, who was really the starter all spring when Jalen left, and Grayson, who really wasn't available in the spring and didn't know how available he was going to be and how comfortable he felt up until the point where he came to see me in about 2 to 3 weeks ago.
There's your head coach of the Bulldogs, Brent Thompson, at the weekly press conference, talking about the arrival of the Irmo, South Carolina, and former Dutch Fork quarterback Graeson Underwood. And what a story this is. If he ends up becoming a quarterback that steers this program the rest of this year and sticks around for 2023, he was essentially out of football for nearly 3 years, it seems. I know he was in some spring practices, but he had not played in a live contact actual game since his junior year of high school. And Thomas, I know you're a native of Irmo as well. Your fellow Irmies there in Graeson Underwood was part of this Dutch Fork Silver Fox program. If you don't mind, Thomas, tell us a little bit about that history of that program and how a guy like Graeson Underwood goes from there to the Citadel.
Well, John, when it comes to high school football in the state of South Carolina, Dutch Fork definitely is the measuring stick. I mean, goodness, they play nationally televised games, typically at the beginning of every year. Most of their games against local rivals are like a track meet, Of course, they've owned my alma mater, Irmo High School, for quite a while now. And, John, the only thing better than a Lexington native, is an Irmo native. And, how appropriate is it for an Irmese to take the reins? And I just want to say one thing to Andrew, the level of dedication at your daughter's wedding for somebody that doesn't wear the band of gold, for Citadel football is quite impressive, sir. So we definitely toast you for that. But yeah, John, doesn't get any better than, Irmo and the Citadel.
He did that. By the way, I know your daughter got married, but after that little stunt at your daughter's wedding, I just want to make sure, Andrew, are you still married?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. No one could see me watching the game. Even I did ask my daughter. I was like, "Hey, I'm going to watch a little bit of this game," and she was like, "Yeah, go ahead," because it was one of those moments you're kind of in the bullpen in baseball and nothing's really going on. The game's going on. Yeah. There's really nothing for you to do until X X amount of time. So I had a few minutes to watch it, and again, I watched most of the first half, and that was really the only half I really needed to watch. It. Then last night I ended up watching the second half on ESPN Plus.
It was a half, literally, and I want to take a moment here we've been talking about Underwood, but what about his fellow folks in the background, the Braden Walkers, who got a lot of carries, carried more balls than anybody in this game, and Cooper Wallace also part of that. You had some guys who stepped up on the receiving. I mean, Underwood threw 2 passing touchdowns in this contest. So that's the offense. What a great job. The defense held them, kept them off the board the entire first half. What an incredible job by Coach Grantham in this unit. And then the coup de grace, Andrew, how about that Citadel special teams? Just when you thought the Citadel would go to half with a very good performance. It even got better because Western Carolina got cute and tried to do a fake punt, and the Citadel special teams stopped the punt and made it real easy to get more points on the Bulldog for the Bulldog offense. What a tremendous A on all three phases of this game, in the first half especially.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And one of the couple of things that I noticed, one is that their perimeter blocking was outstanding. The Citadel was able to get outside, get on the perimeter, get big chunk plays from their perimeter game, which they have not been able to do all season. So that's a credit to the wide receivers who are blocking in those situations. I thought that was a huge key. And again, I thought the secondary played really well. A lot of times they only rushed 3 guys and they had 8 guys in coverage, and the quarterback really had no place to go with the football. So you're right. I think all 3 phases played excellent, but there were things that the Citadel was able to do on the perimeter that they had not been able to do this entire season, and hopefully that can carry over into the Samford game on Saturday.
And I don't claim to be an expert on all phases of triple option football, but some folks did bring out that because of this change in quarterback, we were truly getting a full triple option experience, what we were able to see out there as fans. Do you two agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the interesting things that I saw was a lot of times Graeson Underwood, they were design runs. I don't think there was any option involved in it. And he would get the B-back coming behind the fullback. Again, I always want to call him the fullback, but he'd get that B-back coming into the line of scrimmage, and he would follow right behind that block. And there were so many times when it looked like that Graeson Underwood was going to go outside and have the option to either turn it up the field or pitch it, and instead he just went straight behind the B-back, right behind him, and was able to get 4, 5, 6 yards. It seemed like every time they ran that play. And they must have run that play a dozen times.
Yeah. And if you want a textbook definition of how this offense should run, hey, do yourself a favor and find on YouTube the Citadel Sports YouTube page, and you will find Coach Brent Thompson's call-in show from Wednesday night, and he actually breaks down film, and you can see him go through plays from this Western Carolina game and explain exactly how players are doing what they're supposed to and how big of a difference it makes when you're trying to get a much-needed win. I was very impressed by the fact that they had this new venue in North Charleston that allows them to have the coaches show where they can show a big display like that, and it's pretty informative stuff for a coaches show, to be honest with you. And hopefully the opposing teams aren't out there watching this coaches show, because they might steal some ideas of how to stop this potent offense. But a very, very good win. Again, the Citadel goes on the road to Western Carolina, improves to 2-5 after they walk out of Cullowhee with a 34-21 win, a game that gives them their second SoCon win of the season. Andrew, postscript notes from you on this win.
Well, this should give them momentum coming into these 3 home games. It should give them a ton of confidence going into the Samford game. You know, they got 2 national ranked undefeated teams in the Southern Conference coming up these next 2 weeks in Samford and Chattanooga. They're going to be obviously huge games for the Citadel. This gives them confidence and momentum. It gives them a clear, I think, leader on this offense, which is really the quarterback play has been an issue for them, it seems like, all season. Although Brent Thompson did not say the starter was going to be either Ahmad Greed or Graeson Underwood, I don't know how you can go away from Graeson Underwood. I mean, the guy had a fantastic game on the road. I'd expect to see him starting this Saturday against Samford.
And Andrew, both of the previous quarterbacks, including Derek and Ahmad, they were available to play if needed, right?
I don't think Peyton Derrick was available to play, but Ahmad Green definitely was, because he went out there for a play. I think it was right at the end of the second quarter, where Grayson had his helmet taken off, and then he actually came in for a single play. So Ahmad Green, he has an ankle injury, and that's why he wasn't starting. And then Peyton Derrick has a shoulder injury. I did find out something yesterday. Logan Billings will not be back this year, but they do expect Tyler Cherry. They're hoping to get him back for the last 2 games, but he won't play. It doesn't sound like these next 2 games.
Man, tough loss there.
Yeah.
But is Logan Billings out for injury reasons?
Yeah, From what I've been told, yes.
Okay. All right, our insider on Bulldog Athletics, Andrew Miller of the Charleston Post and Courier. And health-wise, did anybody go out in this game, Andrew? If you've had a chance to go back and watch both the first and second quarter, did you have a chance to get any kind of update on injuries from the game?
Yeah, I asked Brent about that last night. He said besides those couple guys that I've mentioned, he said everybody else should be ready to go.
Outstanding. All right, great to hear. As the Bulldogs now turn the page on this hot streak of a win on the road, much needed. Now Samford, the opponent. It's a 2:00 kickoff at Johnson Haygood Stadium, as this will be the first of 3 consecutive games, three back-to-back games at the General. First Samford, then Chattanooga, then Virginia University of Lynchburg will be the final home game of the year on November 12th. This weekend, it is not homecoming. Homecoming where you have all the classes come back. That's going to be for the Chattanooga game, which will be the following weekend after this weekend. But this weekend, Samford, the opponent. Samford comes into this game, and I thought that Graeson Underwood would probably win the Offensive Player of the Year for the Southern Conference for his performance at Western. No, he got outdone by the Samford quarterback. That guy had over 400 yards passing in the Bulldogs' win at ETSU last weekend. And this is a very good Samford Bulldog team coming in. They have not lost in conference play. They're looking mighty good, Andrew.
Yeah, no doubt about it. They're more of the air raid offense. They do dink and dunk kind of like the air raid offense does. They use a lot of their the short passing game as really their running game. And Michael Ayers, I hope that's how you pronounce his last name. He leads the Southern Conference in passing, 271 yards per game, 20 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. So one of the keys to me is going to be, can the Citadel defense tackle in space? And offensively, they just got to do exactly what they did last week. Roll down that with that triple option, control the clock, control possession of the ball, and then score touchdowns instead of field goals. But the key for the Bulldogs, to me, especially defensively, is going to be tackling in space. When they do these short passes, and the Citadel secondary and those linebackers make those tackles in space, and that'll be huge, I think.
And you talked about that air raid offense. Coach Hatcher now, gosh, he's been at Samford around 10 years. Hard to believe, as he had a power at Valdosta State, that he left to go to be the coach of Sam, not Stan. And with all the quarterbacks he's had come in there, this guy here that you mentioned, again, your SoCon Offensive Player of the Week after what the Bulldogs did at ETSU last week, and they're going to look to stay perfect. They've got a real, if they can somehow walk out of Charleston winners, they're going to have a showdown with Chattanooga pretty soon, and that's going to possibly be for the SoCon title. This year, Samford looks much improved offensively. Now, what's the Citadel offense going to be able to do against that Samford defense, Andrew?
Well, again, the Samford defense is really not that great. I mean, they're one of the worst defenses in the Southern Conference, statistically speaking. Now, they have a pretty good scoring defense. They're not giving up a ton of points. But defense against the rush, they're really not very strong. They're near the bottom of the Southern Conference. So, again, the key for the Citadel is going to be controlling the football, running those 3, 4, 5, 6 yards per play thing. Go for it on fourth down almost every time that comes up on the plus side of the field, and control the ball. Just do exactly what you did last week against Western Carolina. Kind of rinse and repeat. And I think they got a good chance at winning if they can do what they did last week.
Mr. Irmes, I know you probably have a question or two, so feel free.
Yeah, well, I think Samford's only loss of the year is the UGA back earlier in the season, and as far as the air raid attack goes, I think Brent Thompson talked about that in the press conference. So it's going to be really important, for our secondary to keep those guys in front of them. Last week was the first time we really saw the Citadel's offense, their ability to get to the edge. And, we had the ball 42 minutes time of possession against Western Carolina. So like Andrew said, that's the key, play keep away. The recipe for this game is do exactly what you did last week at Western Carolina. And what an opportunity we have to just cause chaos at the top of the Southern Conference the next 2 weeks. Imagine us talking in 3 weeks and we just beat Samford and Chattanooga. How great would that be?
Yeah, it'd be great. In fact, if they can beat Samford and Chattanooga, arguably the two leaders of the SoCon, I don't think it should be too hard to beat Virginia University of Lynchburg, and then VMI may be the worst team in the SoCon. So this team could pull out the miracle and close out the season with 6 wins in a row, or was that right? 5 wins in a row, and end up having a winning season. This is right there in front of them. They control their own destiny.
So, Andrew, question on Tyler Cherry. I saw a note on a message board about he has a broken hand. Is that correct?
The last time I saw him, he had a what looked like a cast to be on one of his arms. So
Okay.
Broken hand. That sounds about right.
Okay. And you say he should? Did they expect him to be back by the Chattanooga game? Or not Virginia Lynchburg? Excuse me.
Correct. They're hoping that they can get him back by then. Of the two guys that I mentioned, Logan Billings and him, he was the most likely to come back this season, is what Brent Thompson told me.
Okay. John, you mentioned Grayson had 2 passing touchdowns. He was 4 for 7. 4 for 7 in passing. You know, the guy had 129 yards rushing. What a great individual effort.
Yeah.
And have you seen the size of the legs on Graeson Underwood? They're like tree trunks.
Yeah. He's a big boy. Of course, his height is not that big. I think he's only 6 feet tall, according to the
maybe he gets lost there in the interior. I don't know. But I think,
6 feet,
Andrew, in your
pounds.
Yeah. Well, Andrew, in your opinion, is the reason we were able to get to the outside against Western, and how great was it to see those guys just bending over after every play, just exhausted their defense and stayed on the field for 42 minutes. But in your opinion, is the reason we were able to get to the perimeter because Grayson did such a great job of staying behind his blockers on those interior 4 or 5 yard plays?
Well, I think that was part of it, but also you were able to establish that run game in between the tackles. And I think anytime that you do that, the defense, the linebackers are going to creep up, the safeties are going to creep up a little bit. They're going to get more into the interior of the defense, the offense really, and that's going to open things up on the outside. And again, I cannot reiterate this enough. I thought the blocking by the perimeter guys, wide receivers, and the A-backs, I thought that was outstanding. All game long, you could see them, really sustaining their blocks, pushing those guys down the field. And I don't know if it was a lack of speed from Western Carolina, but I think it was more of that they were able to establish that interior between the tackles running game, and that opened things up on the outside and opened things up in the passing game too. Because if you think about those 2 touchdown passes that Underwood threw, those guys are pretty much running wide open the entire route. So everything is key, and what has been the problem for the Citadel offense all year? They couldn't establish that B-back. They couldn't establish that interior running game because that sets everything else up.
Andrew, looking into your crystal ball for Coach Thompson, what do you think? How many games does he have to win to close out the season to renew his contract?
Yeah, that is a tough question. I mean, last week when he said, we have 5 games left and I fully expect to win 5 games, I had to stifle a laugh there, or at least a guffaw. But after watching this performance, I think it can happen. I think if you beat Chattanooga and you beat Samford and then you beat VMI, I don't know anything about Virginia Lynchburg. I know they're very good, but if you can win those 2 games and beat VMI, I think it'd be very difficult for them not to renew his contract.
Agreed.
Getting it done when it matters most, but he's got these 2 big games here, and he definitely needs to win them. No pressure.
No doubt. Yeah. I was going to say, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's just, as the coaches say, 1 game at a time.
Yeah. Well, 1 game at a time. That would be that's what they're focusing on. That's all they should be focusing on. So we got the opportunity here with the Samford Bulldogs coming in, then Chattanooga, then 1 more home game, then on the road. And hopefully we're going to have a nice crowd. I think that homecoming game should be nearly a sellout, if not already sold out. And let's not forget about this game prior to homecoming with Samford coming in. It's a great chance to have more than 10,000 souls in the stands, because I know that the homecoming game coming up should be, as I said, nearly packed out at whatever that is, around 15,000 these days. By the way, speaking of attendance at Johnson-Agate Stadium, Any updates, anything you've heard with your ear to the ground, either one of you, on the project to raise the money to get the new East stands built? That was a campaign that was announced just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I talked to the AD a couple of when that was announced, and it's obviously a capital project to finish that other side, those visiting stands, which to me, if even in the old Johnson Haygood days, the stands over there now are to me kind of an embarrassment. It's a high school stand, and they need to do better than that. And I think they're going to try to get that thing done in the next couple of years. And I know they were very enthusiastic about the capital project that they're going to have there, and they like the direction that it's going. So I think they're going to get this thing done.
Andrew, any intel on the AD, whether he will actually be present at the next 3 home games?
That I do not know. I have
Okay.
I've not spoken to Mike in a while.
Okay. Well, we sure hope so. All right, so we've got the ball games opportunities going forward. Of course, I think it's the special alumni type deal for alumni, not the athletic alumni, the Hall of Fame, I guess is what it would be called, coming up. That's going to be for the Chattanooga weekend, homecoming weekend is when that will be taking place. So lots of fun things going on the Charleston campus. Any other football notes before we switch over to something else, Andrew?
Nope.
All right. Are you surprised with the SoCon with Chattanooga and with Samford in the clubhouse leading the league at this point?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I thought that Chattanooga, of the two, I think Samford is more of the surprise to me than Chattanooga. I think Chattanooga was always going to be kind of up there battling for first place in the conference championship. I honestly thought ETSU was going to be better than they have been, and that started with the great kind of walk-off kick, field goal that Kittner got for them. So I think they kind of took a body blow there. ETSU did, and I think it took them a few games to recover. They've been playing better as of late, but I thought it'd be ETSU and Chattanooga. Furman has been a little bit of a surprise to me as well. I didn't think they'd be as good as they are right now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And how about Mercer? I thought Mercer would be right there competing.
Yeah.
And not to say they're totally out of the picture, but
right,
they've lost some games.
Yeah, they have, and I thought they were a pretty balanced team. When I talked to Brent Thompson,
Come back to us, Andrew. What do you think he's
Post
saying?
and Courier Wi-Fi.
See, you should have bought that subscription, Thomas. If
Yes,
bought
I
that
tell you
$1
what.
subscription.
We need some donations for Andrew's Wi-Fi.
All
Maybe
right.
we can get a hard cable run to the house.
Yeah. Andrew, you said when I talked to Brent Thompson and then we lost you. So try that again.
He's frozen, John.
Oh, is he? All right. He's frozen. That's
Yes.
I think that's your favorite movie, isn't it?
yep, there he is. I'm back.
There we go.
All right. We'll go back to you again. You said you talked to Brent Thompson, then we lost you.
Yeah, okay. So what he said was that Campbell was actually the most.
Round 2.
The guy had to help pay for his daughter's wedding,
Yeah, this is true.
I guess the internet kind of got pushed back a little bit. We'll try to get him back on here. All right, Thomas, are you ready for
Yes.
Citadel basketball? It's going to be here before you know it.
John, honestly, I am with Ed Conroy's first year back. Last coach was the only coach ever to win 20 games. I can't remember at the Citadel. So yeah, I'm looking forward to going down to McAllister Fieldhouse and watching a few games this year.
Mars Hill is the very first, if you want to call, thing on the docket. They're an exhibition game, and they're going to be playing the Dogs Sunday. It's Mars Hill and the Citadel from McAllister Fieldhouse starting at 4 o'clock p.m. Make your plans now.
Yes, sir. About as good as it might be more exciting than Andrew Miller versus his Wi-Fi.
Yeah. And then it's going to be November 7th. The Bulldogs will try to repeat what they did last year. They went on the road for the very first game of the season against an ACC opponent, and they knocked off a team called Pitt. This year, for Pitt's sake, they're going to be at Little John taking on those Clemson basketball Tigers on Monday, November 7th at 7 p.m. That ought to be a great opportunity to beat them. The Citadel's home opener at McAllister Fieldhouse will be on Thursday, November 10th, when put on those big boy socks. The Presbyterian College Blue Hose will be coming on down from Clinton to take on the Bulldogs November 10th. So that's kind of a quick look at what's going on basketball-wise with Ed Conroy in his first season at the helm in Charleston. Andrew, are you ready for Mars Hill to come into McAllister this weekend?
Oh yeah, looking forward to it. I've known Ed for years. I covered him when he was actually a player his last year at the Citadel. So Ed and I go way back. Looking forward to seeing how he can kind of revamp this program. He's already done it once.
Yep, the 1988-89 basketball Bulldogs. And Andrew, I'm going to test you on this because I believe you, but just so you can educate the masses here, where did you see Ed Conroy play his Bulldog basketball that year?
That's Days Hall, right?
Yeah, that's right. They played in Days Hall, which is pretty hard. Did you know that they played a whole season in Days Hall, which is probably
I think
Why was that again, John? Why did they play in Days Hall?
they were renovating McAllister Fieldhouse in that 1988-89
I think they were
season.
renovating McAllister. Yeah.
And they had to play their games in Days Hall, which probably only held maybe 500 people, something like that.
Amazing. I guess our crosstown rivals, College of Charleston, they weren't gracious enough to allow us to borrow their field house.
I don't think we wanted to be there. In those days, whatever the College of Charleston had probably wasn't much bigger than Days Hall. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, maybe so. That's right. That's the days before the big arena.
Yeah.
No,
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, that was the Johnson Center. Yeah, that was yeah. I said that was the Johnson College of Charleston played the Johnson Center. That was not that was about as good as Days Hall. Yeah. No doubt. I used to play a lot of pickup basketball with Charlie Taff at Days Hall back in the day.
Look at you. All right, so Bulldog basketball quickly approaching. Anything else sports-wise before we say goodbye to you, Andrew?
Well, I did want to say so when I talked to Brent Thompson, I asked him about the best team talent-wise that he played all year, and he said it was Campbell. That's what I was trying to say, which I would have to agree with. Athlete for athlete, they're the best team so far that I've seen the Citadel play.
Are you talking about that Campbell team that could not beat Jackson State this past weekend?
It is amazing, isn't it? But they were, well, besides Appalachian State. Obviously, Appalachian State probably had the best athletes. But I was talking about at the FCS level, yeah, Campbell is the best athletic team, most athletic team that I've seen so far this year. Bigger, stronger, faster athletes than any other team that I've seen so far.
Yeah, and I do give proper credit to Coach Sanders and his JSU Tigers for beating Campbell in front of about 50,000 fans there at Mississippi Veterans Memorial Coliseum this past weekend. What a program he's got. Maybe if we had to have a coaching change at the Citadel, who could we get? Maybe who's out there? Michael Irvin, would he be a good choice? I actually have a history with Michael Irvin and the Citadel. His old position coach was Joe Avezzano. Do you know who that is? Remember that name?
I do not.
He was the special teams coach for the Dallas Cowboys for probably 25 years, going back to Landry, I think. And I was on a tour bus one time with Coach Avezzano and a country music singer named Neil McCoy, and they started picking on me because I went to the Citadel. And that was when the Citadel was in the news for Mrs. Faulkner at the time. And they were picking on me, and I'm like, wait a minute, you're picking on me for the Citadel? And the Dallas Cowboys have Michael Irvin, who was also in the news for not the greatest reasons back in the day. That shut them up real quick. So take that, Dallas Cowboys. Speaking of NFL, how about Raleigh Webb? I saw him on Monday Night Football, number 44 for the New England Patriots. He got a chance to play for them after being traded to the Patriots from the Baltimore Ravens. So great job on that. And hopefully Andre Roberts will be suiting up one of these days again for the Carolina Panthers. He's been on injured reserve for quite some time, since the season opener, in fact. But great to see more Bulldog alumni in the NFL getting their chance.
Yeah, I was going to say Raleigh Webb was signed to the 53-man roster, so he's going to be there for the rest of the year.
Oh, great. Yeah, I saw him on a kickoff coverage. Don't think he's getting a chance to return kicks, but he's out there, number 44. And if you saw the Patriots in their game against the Bears Monday, maybe they should have gone to him a little bit more, because the Bears came back, and that's probably not a bad thing for you, Andrew, right? You're Mr.
Nope,
Chicago.
I am a Bears fan.
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
great.
yeah.
That was great to see.
Yeah, but I was a Patriots fan that night because I'm supporting Raleigh Webb, But we wish Raleigh all the best, and congratulations on it looks like going to be on that 53-man roster going forward, and barring any kind of injury. So wonderful news. Let me tell you about IPS Packaging before we get out of here. IPS Packaging and Automation is a name you can trust, and they are a proud presenter of our program. IPS Packaging, they offer e-commerce companies with the very best packaging products and automation in the industry, with a complete line of packaging products, stretch films, and 3M tapes. They've got corrugated boxes, strapping, and equipment automation. IPS Packaging and Automation will analyze and streamline your current methods to improve all of your packaging process. Call them up at 800-277-7007 to learn all about IPS Packaging and Automation. Go to their website, ipack.com. That's ipack.com. IPS Packaging and Automation is a proud supporter of Citadel Athletics. All right, gentlemen, that will pretty much wrap things up. If you've got an answer to our trivia question, 843-779-8496. That trivia question was, prior to Graeson Underwood going to Western Carolina, tell me the most recent Citadel quarterback that made his debut, what do they call his debutante. He was a debutante there at Western Carolina. Someone else did that not all that long ago and really launched a great career after getting behind center in Cullowhee, and the rest was history. Who was that quarterback of yesteryear? If you text us again to 843-779-8496, we'll send you a $25 gift certificate thanks to the folks at the BigRedPalmetto.store. They have a complete lineup of hats, shirts, class reunion items, and more. Oh, man, things for the car, for the grill, for your phone. It's a fantastic website. Hundreds of items with the official Citadel logos available for you to adorn and show proudly. BigRedPalmetto.store. Send us that question and the correct answer, and we'll get you $25 headed your way. Again, thank you to our Citadel parent, who was the most recent winner of our contest last week. Gentlemen, I think we've got it all covered. What do y'all think?
Yep.
All right, Andrew,
Sir.
good to have you back in the fold. Next week, we will look back at Samford and ahead to homecoming and the Chattanooga Mocs coming to Johnson-Haygood Stadium. For Thomas Scruggs, for Andrew Miller, I'm John Rawls signing off. You've been watching Citadel Grayline, a production of CRM Sports.